Welcome to Let's Talk Migraine, where we talk about some of the hottest topics faced by people who live with this disabling and complex neurological disorder that affects nearly 40 million people in the US and 1 billion globally. Today, we're going to be talking about stigma, one of the little known challenges that people with migraine face. Stigma is found in the educational system, the workplace, family, society in general, and even in healthcare. Sadly, it's not always easy to recognize it because we tend to accept a lot of stigma as normal, but it is not okay, and it has a ripple effect on people's quality of life. Carrie, I would love to hear from you because I know that you feel very passionately about why it's so important for us to talk about stigma.
It's really important to talk about stigma because it pervades everything. It's in every aspect of our lives. It can be friends, family, healthcare providers, places you don't expect it. You can encounter stigma. And also because there is so much stigma, we start self-stigmatizing. And so we actually apply that stigma to ourselves. And I know from talking with Aaron, he's talked about the stigma that he faces and also a little bit of that self-stigmatization. Could you tell us more about that, Aaron?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a man, we're kind of expected to be, strong. We're expected to be the provider. I might look like a lumberjack, but migraine takes me down a lot. I can't do everything all the time physically. I get burnt out, and a lot of times a migraine attack it'll just totally wipe me out. So as a man experiencing migraine and telling somebody that I have migraine, they're looking at me like I'm crazy because men don't get migraine. We don't have that. It's a woman's disease, but it's really not. The stigma behind migraine being a woman's disease is very strong, especially as a man. I have noticed that a lot more men have come forward over the years, and there's a lot more research on it, but there's still a lot more stigma out there that needs to be overcome in order to have, I guess, an equal representation in the healthcare system and in the community that men also experience the migraine.
That's such a great point that you made, Aaron. And, I have 3 sons, and 2 of them were diagnosed at a very young age as having migraine. And so it's really kind of up face and central for me that this is not just a women's disease. And there may be more women than men who experience it, but there are so many men who have migraine as well. And it's so important to recognize that. So I'm really glad that you're here today and that you're representing that side of it as well. Now, I know that, Angel, you have experienced a lot of stigma in your life because of migraine. I'd love to hear, how have you experienced some of that?
Another level of stigma is this idea that your migraine is just a pain, in your head. It's a whole lot of other things. It's the nausea, it's the dizziness. For me, it's the problems with my speech, being able to use, one of my hands. And so this idea that a migraine is only the pain that's in your head, it's defeating at times.
Yeah, it's so sad to hear that. And I know for myself that I've also felt that, especially if I've gone to the emergency room, they're treating me like a drug seeker. Honestly, I have never had a good experience in the emergency room when I've gone there for migraine. And that's really sad because we go there as a last resort. We go there because we've exhausted all our possibilities and we don't know what to do. And a lot of the times our doctors send us there because they don't know what to do either. So to be treated or to feel like they're seeing us as a drug seeker is just really devastating to experience that. So, Aaron, I'd love to hear from you. Is that something that you've experienced?
Actually, and I know a lot of people have experienced that, but I'm kind of the opposite. After several run-ins with having been given drugs through IVs and going through a lot of different medication at home, I don't like medication. My body rejects it. It actually makes things worse for me. So when I go to the ER because I might be stuck in a cycle of vomiting and vertigo and whatever else, I'm not going in there to seek drugs. I need them to get me stable, and they want to give me painkillers and whatever else, and they don't understand why I don't want them because I've had a lot of negative experiences with it. So it's kind of the flip side of that for me. It's a very interesting situation going into the ER, but not wanting to be medicated.
Erin, that was a great point that you just made about not wanting to take medication and the side effects that have. And I know that that is true for so many of us. We really do not want to take medications. A lot of us experience a ton of side effects. All we want is just to get relief from the pain and from the other symptoms that come along with a migraine attack. But why don't we pivot now and let's talk about how we can combat some of that stigma. And I know, Carrie, that you've said a few times a phrase that really rings true to me, and that is, tell the truth about what it is like to live with migraine. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
I think the single most important thing that we can do to combat stigma is be honest about what it's like to live with migraine. People have preconceived notions about what migraine is. And because so many of us have experienced stigma, we don't want to hear people's thoughts about migraine. And so we hide our experience. We don't tell them what's going on. We don't tell people in general that we're experiencing a migraine attack when we are, or even that we have migraine, because we don't want to face people's stigma. But by hiding, we're just perpetuating stigma. We have to be honest about what it's like to live with migraine, what the symptoms are like, how debilitating it can be sometimes, how we can sometimes push through, but not always. Being honest about the complete experience of life with migraine is the only way that people without migraine will understand what it's truly like.
Right. And that is such a great point. And I often think about what happened with the breast cancer campaign, where women were taking the wigs off their heads to show the devastation of that disease. And people really didn't understand what that disease did until they started doing that. And I see that that's the same for migraine as well, is that we tend to hide, we tend to fake it. But when we are honest, through being honest, that is a way for people to understand what migraine disease is really like, the impact that it has on our life and every aspect of our life. So Angel, I'd love to hear from you. Is that something that rings true for you? How easy is it for you to be honest about what it is like to have migraine?
I try to smile through everything. And someone would ask, are you in pain? Oh, no, I'm fine. It's just a migraine. Until I realized that I was more worried about being pitied or someone assuming that I'm faking the pain. And then I realized the only way I could be my true self is to tell the truth. And today I'm at a level 8. Today I'm at a level 3. I also got to the point where you don't have to ask me if I have a migraine. Ask me what my level of pain is. And I feel like when I did that, people around me understood that I fight this fight every single day. Whether I smile or I don't, I'm fighting this fight with pain.
Right, absolutely. And that's such a real thing. It's hard for people to understand that migraine attacks don't necessarily just last for 4 hours or 72 hours. They can last for days, they can last for weeks, for months. And that in itself has an impact on our lives. Erin, what is it like for you to share the truth about life with migraine?
It's been an uphill battle for many years. I used to work in an industry that was very laborious. I had to climb telephone poles for a living. I was in attics and crawl spaces, a lot of hot places, and a lot of dehydration. And I worked with a lot of men. The majority of my crew that I worked with were all men. And it came to a point where I was starting to get real dizzy. The head pain was just too much. The migraine was overtaking my body. And I had to tell my manager at the time, I said, listen, I can't climb today. I'm too dizzy. My head hurts. Well, here, take something. No, you don't understand. I'm not safe. This is a safety issue. A lot of times I would get my work truck and I would just pass out. So it's very difficult, but I'm getting there.
That's great to hear. And just so you know, so everybody here knows, it is really hard to speak out about life with migraine because there is so much stigma. This is not just a headache. It is not just resolved by a quick over-the-counter pill. There is no cure. We see so many magic cures online, and we're going to be talking about that in another time a little bit. But people really need to understand migraine is a serious disease. It is complex. It presents itself differently in each and every one of us. I know for myself that at one point I brought out my go bag to my family, my little bag of medications that I have to have with me everywhere that I go. And I think that was an eye-opening moment for them to see all the medications that I have to take, that I have to give myself an injection to stop a migraine attack. They didn't realize that it was that serious. And so that is just one of the things that we can do, is you can show your go bag. You can tell your story. You can share this video. There are a lot of different things that you can do. So if you or a loved one live with migraine, again, the chances are that you've seen the impact the stigma can have, but there are so many things that can help combat it. Share a relevant post, wear a t-shirt or a hat to raise awareness, be honest about how you are feeling, tell the truth. Don't be afraid to talk about your personal journey and experiences. Transparency and openness can often lead to conversations that promote inclusion and equity for everyone who lives with this disease. And your voice can make a difference, not only in your own life, but in the lives of many others.